In this video for PokerNews.com, Master Blaster Rampage Poker is playing 2550 no limit Texas style at Resorts World in Las Vegas. They're playing about $7,000 deep, so 140 big blinds. Let's see if Rampage can bluff off its stack again.
In the next hand, I pick up 8-9 of clubs.
9-8 of clubs, good bluffing hand. Here we go.
We're in the big blind, and there's a low jack open to $125. We get the button and small blind to make the call, and I'm closing out the action here. Certainly can go either way with a call or raise, and honestly, I might raise this a high percentage of the time, but as played here in this bigger game, not really familiar with the players, and obviously much bigger than my 5-10 game, I just make the call and see a flop multi-way.
So one thing Rampage says here is that he is playing a bigger game than normal, and therefore he's going to play more cautiously. I would generally not recommend that. I think that you should play the same in the higher stakes games as you do in the smaller stakes games, and perhaps if anything, you should be even more aggressive pre-flop in the higher stakes games, because presumably the players in the higher stakes games are going to have better post-flop skills than in the smaller games. So if anything, I think you want to be even more aggressive as you move up. I realize almost no one does that, but I think it's actually a really good adjustment, and most people will presume that if you normally play smaller games that you're actually going to be a little bit tighter in the high stakes games, which allows you to get through a few more bluffs. That said, I would have called this 9-8 of clubs as well.
Well, the flop comes Jack 10-6 to clubs.
All right.
Just an open-ended straight draw along with the 9-high flush draw. This is a big flop. Action checks to the low jack player who puts out a c-bet of $300, and when action folds to me, oh, you know I'm trying to pile all of my stack in here. I check raise to 1100 to start.
All right, let's talk about if we should check raise or check call on this flop. I think in this scenario, you probably don't want to do a ton of raising to begin with, because the initial raiser bet into multiple players on a board that's pretty coordinated and should connect very well with all of the caller's ranges, which means the initial flop better should have something pretty good here. So what is pretty good on Jack 10-6? I think it's going to be a lot of top pairs, over pairs, straight draws, flush draws. And if you actually consider that range, the 9-8 of clubs is not actually in that great a shape, because we will be against ace-x of clubs and king-x of clubs sometimes. So that's not good. Also, if we check raise, I don't expect to have much fold equity at all, which is also not good. And every once in a while, the opponent may just rip it in. Like if you give them ace-queen of clubs or king-queen of clubs or even ace-2 of clubs, they may just jam it all in, and then we'd end up calling it off really far behind. The tough part about this is that when we do get all of our money in on this flop, yeah, we're going to be against aces sometimes, but I think a lot of the time we're going to be against two pair or better, in which case we're not in that great a shape. And every once in a while, we're going to be against a better draw, and we're going to be in very bad shape. So I think, even though we're out of position with a draw that lacks showdown value, I think we may just want to check call this flop. Check raising it can't be bad, but I definitely do think that check calling may be ideal, especially if your name is Rampage Poker, the Master Blaster, and people are used to you getting in there and blasting it hard. But whatever, we check raise, fine.
If he wants to put in another raise, then I'm happy to just get everything in the middle. And here, the low jack player just makes the call, so we're going to play this one out of position with a monster draw. Hoping to get there and make things easy, the turn comes a board pairing 10.
Ugh.
It's not an amazing turn card, but I can't expect this player to have a 10 in their hand that often here. So I decide to bet out again with 9 high, because that's just what you do. I bet out $1,600.
All right. Do we bet the 10 turn? The problem with the 10 turn is that this does not connect with our value range much at all. I realize we could have Jack 10. I get that. But what other 10s do we have? It's like almost none, because all the 10s check call. We could have full houses, which we'd like to bet, but again, not all that many combinations. So we need to check some of our draws that missed. Which hands are best to check that are draws that missed? I think it's going to be stuff like the highest showdown value ones. If we did check raise ace-x of clubs or king-x of clubs, we probably want to check those, I suppose. Maybe it just makes sense to bet this one because it has open-ended straight draw. I'm trying to think here if we should ever actually consider a check raise here, because if we did have a 10, yeah, betting's fine, but check raising may be pretty sweet as well. I don't know. It's an interesting spot, right? If you are going to be check raising with some 10x, by the way, say you did randomly have queen 10 of hearts or something like that, that check raise the flop, then maybe that's a hand you do want to check raise turn, but even then I'd probably just keep betting it. So we may have no check raising range here. I don't know. Weird spot for sure when the 10 comes, because the opponent's range may or may not contain very many 10s, right? Because remember, they bet the flop into a lot of people, which usually indicates something like top pair or better, and a lot of those do not contain a 10. And our range contains almost no 10s either because we check raise the flop. So weird spot where if we have a lot of 10s, then I love the bet. If the opponent has a lot of 10s, I hate the bet. So definitely a spot where it's very difficult to know what to do. But 9 high, straight flush draw. Might as well put some money in the pot, I suppose.
Trying to figure out what his range could be. Could be a bunch of flush draws, could be a jack, could be some straight draws as well, like king, queen or something like that. And I'd expect him to fold a lot of those draws when the board is paired. And
do we think people are going to fold king, queen or queen 9 when the board is paired? I don't think so. Notice we're not betting like egregiously large or anything. We're betting $1,600 into a $2,700 pot. I think getting pretty good odds. Most people are still going to splash around going to the turn, especially against Rampage Poker.
And when he makes the call for $1,600, I could only expect him to have a jack or even an overpair. So with about $4,000 left to play for, we're going to see a river, which is the 3 of diamonds.
3 of diamonds comes on the river. What would you do in Rampage's shoes here? Take a second, think about it. With your 9 high busted straight flush draw, do you check and give up? Do you bet small, like 1,500? Or do we blast them all in? Pause the video and let me know what you would do in the comment section down below. I think in this spot, given the read that Rampage just announced that when my opponent calls my turn bet, we think they have mostly a jack or better. You just got to check fold. It's unfortunate, but when all of the draws miss, literally all of them, you're going to have a hard time getting people to fold top pair, especially if your name is Rampage Poker. So as much as I hate giving up with a busted draw, especially one that cannot win at the showdown, I think the play here is to probably give up. Now, I will say, if the opponent's range instead contains a lot, or at least some, ace-king, ace-queen, king-queen, or queen-9, I think now we definitely need to bluff. And I do think those hands will be in the opponent's ranges sometimes, whereas it seems like Rampage does not. So again, it's very important to make sure you are doing your best to very accurately put your opponent on a range, because if the range is all decently strong made hands, you just have to check fold. And if their range contains a lot of ace-high, king-high, queen-high, you have to bluff. So how much do we have to bet to get ace-high, king-high, or queen-high to fold? I think the answer may actually be small. I actually think a $1,500 bet here or a $1,200 bet could be pretty sweet if we do think that will get king-high, queen-high, and even ace-high to fold. If you think he's going to hero call with ace-high for $1,200, maybe go more like $1,800. And for that reason, I think I would probably go something like $1,800 in this spot if I wanted to bet. So if I was in this scenario, and we somehow got this just complete brick run out where the turn pairs the board, which takes away some of our potential value hands, and the river's just a total brick, and I have one of the worst draws I can have, I think we need to go for a small bet, assuming the opponent's range is not all good hands. Because if we do go big here, and the opponent does have a good hand, they're just going to call, right? Give them any jack, they're not going to fold on this run out, I don't think. So I think the play here is either go small or check. Interesting spot, though.
Okay. Total brick city, which is really unfortunate. And as played here, look, I can certainly slow down and check, but I have a really great candidate to bluff with. I only have 9 high, and obviously you can't win with 9 high. And I think that sometimes if I decide to commit his entire stack in there, he can fold some Jack X holdings. I don't expect him to fold any overpairs, but if he does have a jack, I put them in a horrible spot by going all in, and that's what I do.
Is this a horrible spot if the opponent has a jack and they know that you enjoy running a good bluff? I don't think it is. I mean, give me literally any jack. Give me jack 8. I'm just going to call. I mean, what are you going to do? Because this is a spot where all the draws missed, and also you, Rampage, probably don't have a whole lot of 10s. So imagine your range in this spot to play this way. Is that literally, what? What would you even do this with for value? Like ace jack or better, maybe? King jack or better? I think even that's kind of optimistic because you're going to be running into aces and kings and queens a lot. So that means we're doing it with a 10 or better, but like I said, we have basically no 10s to check raise the flop. So that means we're doing it with full houses only. Count the combinations of full houses. It's not a lot. So if we have almost no full houses here, and if the opponent has a jack, they're blocking the most obvious one, jack 10, this is just a trivially easy call with a jack. Better question is, what do they do with a hand like pocket sevens? I think that becomes a dicey one. What about pocket fours? I think that's a dicey one too. Those may actually be calls as well, if you're going to take all busted draws and bluff them. Anyway, you do rip it in. Let's see what happens.
I rip it all in, about $4,100 effective, and he is going through the tank, thinking his decision over. And, you know, second hand into this 25-50 game, we are already playing almost a $10,000 pot. And after a while, he ends up flicking in a call. That sucks. I tell him he's good, and he has queen jack offsuit.
Queen jack offsuit, there you go. Top pair, no kicker. Good enough. The thing is a lot of people will act like it's a tough decision and then call, but in reality, it takes a particularly weak tight knit to fold a jack here. And I mean, we're playing 25-50. It's not like we're playing against weak tight knits, right? They're going to find a call when it's just an obvious call when all the draws miss. So definitely a tough spot. I think in this scenario, I would have bet small on the river, like 1,800. And notice, yeah, well, I guess he had 4,100. Maybe the right play is more like 1,500 or 1,200. Either way, you would have saved $2,000 or $3,000, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but it is some. And that's also a value bet you can make with a jack at that point if you do have ace jack or king jack. So definitely a weird spot. Rampage goes for it and does not work out this time. I know a lot of people like to give Rampage a hard time for running insane bluffs, but I actually think running insane bluffs is really, really good because when Rampage ever makes a hand, he's going to get maximally paid. I mean, give Rampage a full house here, even even ace jack, he would have got a full double up where a lot of people do not. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Whenever you run big bluffs, yeah, you're going to have big swings, but sometimes those swings are going to be up. That's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video for PokerNews.com. Huge thanks to Rampage for letting me use this footage. Make sure you check out his video blog. We'll put a link in the description below. Good luck. Have fun. Don't be afraid to get in there and bluff. And if it fails, you can blame Rampage. And if it succeeds, you can thank me. Click the like and subscribe buttons. Have fun. And I'll talk to you next time.